friends, so glad you're here to join us for our See the Light, Yes You Can Draw Special Stories art class. And today we're going to be doing a special lesson on Paul. Now, the Apostle Paul had quite the life after he received Jesus in that amazing experience on the road to Damascus. But he also partook in 3 special missionary journeys where he visited churches. And in between those journeys, he had a lot of experiences, including being taken prisoner. Well, because Paul was a Roman citizen, he wanted to go plead his case in Rome. And so in between those adventures, he was taken as a prisoner on a ship for the long journey to Italy in order to go to Rome. Well, there's an adventure on the ship as well, a famous shipwreck, and that's what our drawing is going to be today, Paul and the shipwreck. This is a story of faith. Paul was an incredible man of faith, and he had faith in knowing he was going to make it to Rome, even though God had warned the ship that it was going to have a horrible journey and they shouldn't go any further. And Paul tried to warn them, but they went anyway. But Paul, being the man of faith, knew God was going to deliver somehow. So before we get started on our drawing of Paul and the shipwreck, let's see what you're going to use for today's art class. Now today you're going to be using an actually dark shade of colored paper. I'm going to be using black. You can use brown or dark gray, navy blue, or black, something really dark. You'll need a set of pastels, at least 12. I'm going to be using a larger set. I just like having that color choice. A set of fluorescent pastels. You can get these from the See the Light website. A really good eraser. I prefer a kneaded eraser. You'll need some ways to keep clean since we're working with pastels. So some baby wipes or a moistened paper towel and some tissues. And our last item is a small black light. I got mine from the See the Light website as well. Not everyone has a black light handy, so why don't you talk to Mom or Dad and see if you can order a small black light from the See the Light website. That's seethelightshine.com. But if you don't have a black light, this drawing will still be a great one to add to your portfolio of drawings. So for today, we're going to actually place our paper long ways like this, so it's mostly up and down. And we're not going to be using a pencil. We're going to just dive right in with our pastels. So whenever we work with pastels, my friends, there's a couple of basic tips. The first is you want to stay clean. So roll up your sleeves if you have long sleeves on, or wear a short sleeve shirt, or like I like to do, put on an overshirt or work shirt over top of your clothes. Now friends, anytime during the course of this art class you feel that I'm going too quickly or you want to catch up or put in more details, just pause the DVD, finish your work, and then press play again when you're ready to track along with me. So we have our black paper because this scene takes place at night. Paul, taken prisoner, is on a ship and he's headed towards Italy, but they keep stopping at other ports along the way. And so they come across a horrible storm. So you're going to start with one of your darker blue pastels, and halfway up your sheet you're going to be making what feels like a large hill. And so you're going to start here with your pastel with the corner and swoop down like that. Okay? And you're going to make some more strokes and swoop down. And then up here at the top of the hill, you're going to have it come up a little bit. Now this whole bottom area we're going to be filling in because this is our very turbulent ocean. So I'm going to take a really dark blue, a dark purple, and a dark gray. So you want to take several pastels that are fairly dark, and using the side of the pastel, follow that line that you made in the hill. This is our turbulent water. I'm going to go back in here. Now with your purple or a black, you're going to actually make smaller marks. We're trying to show that the water is really moving. I keep trading off my pastels because I'm trying to mix the colors without actually doing any blending, just with the strokes I make. Now I want to make that look a little darker, my friends, so I'm actually going to take my black pastel, especially on this edge of this hill, this wave here, and then down here where the wave kind of comes down into a valley of a wave, and make that a little darker. Now at the top of this wave, I'm actually going to take the opposite. I'm going to take a white pastel. And at the very top, I'm going to put some white. And here as well, where the wave kind of crested. When water is really turbulent on the ocean, the waves get so violent that they foam at the top, which creates white caps. In fact, that's what it's called, white caps. Sailors know to look out at a lake or an ocean and decide if they're going to sail that day. If they see white caps, they generally don't sail. That means the wind is too rough, the ocean's too rough. So we are putting some white caps on our waves because this is a rough ocean. Now I think there probably would have been some waves down here, so let's put some white coming down. There probably would have been some white caps, some curved marks that shows how turbulent this ocean was. Kind of like an upside down V type of formation. My husband likes to sail and he knows not to go out in the white caps, and believe me, I don't go out if there's white caps. That's too rough for me. This is our turbulent ocean. Now we're going to put our ship that Paul was on. I want you to take a look at this famous painting of a ship in a stormy sea. Before we get going with our boats, you can understand why we're making some choices we're making. This is by the American artist James Buttersworth, and it's called Clipper in a Heavy Sea. You'll notice how dark the water is, and there are white caps on tops of the waves. You'll notice that the ship is at an angle because it's being rocked to and fro, and it looks very small and weak in that very violent ocean. There's lots of strokes to show the waves. Okay, so for our ship, much like the Buttersworth painting, we're going to be making our ship at an angle to show that it's being tossed about in these waves. So right where you have this upward white cap is going to be the prow of the ship, which is why the water kind of splashed up against it. So with your brown pastel, we're going to make a diagonal line a little bit higher than the top of that wave down to the lower right, like so. Diagonal line. That's the upper rail of the ship. We're going to extend it a little further for the prow. That's that wooden part of the front of the ship. And because ships at that time were all made of wood, we're going to use the edge of our pastel to make lines that are parallel to the top rail as if they are wooden planks that make up the boat, all the way down into the water. Now our ship actually goes off the page. It's probably a fairly large ship, but it would look small and almost like a toy in these waves. So we're letting some of the black show through. Now I have another darker brown. I'm going to go back in and with just the corner make some more dark lines because I want it to show that this is wood. And I'm also going to come in from the other direction because they're not going to go all the way across. Coming out of the center-ish of the boat, going off the page, we're going to be making part of the mast. And so that would use the edge so that we have a nice column. And the mast is going to go off the page. Nice straight line. Now the mast is what would hold on the sails of the boat. And there might be more than one depending on the type of ship. And we'll see coming off of the corner one of the other posts that would have come off the mast. Now this ship would most likely have sails. Of course they didn't have any engine power, anything like modern ships. They were all sailing ships, but in a storm the sails would not be unfurled. They would be all tied up and furled up. So we'll just draw with some white and we'll blend it in This is actually a piece of the sail that's furled up, coming off the mast. Now right here at the prow of the ship is going to be our protagonist in the story, Paul, the Apostle Paul. Now, most of the sailors would not leave a prisoner to just stand on the deck. But remember, they had been going through the storm for a long time, and no one knew quite what to do. Should they throw things overboard? Where should they go? Paul was so calm in the storm. Even as he was telling them, you shouldn't proceed further, there's danger, and they didn't listen, he still remained calm because he had faith. So after a while, Paul was a leader on that ship, and they listened to him. They would keep him in chains, but they would let him go where he wanted. So he was at the prow of the ship, and we're going to make a figure right here using our black pastel. Now all we're going to do to start, my friends, because we would only really see Paul from the waist up because he's standing on the deck of the ship, is we're going to do a small oval and a long stick. We always start with a stick figure so till we get our bearings. Angled shoulders, one arm down touching the rail and the other arm pointing up. Now what we're going to be doing for Paul and why we have the black pastel is we're going to be treating Paul as a silhouette. Do you know what a silhouette is? It's like an outline of someone filled in dark, like a shadow that would be cast on the wall. When you see someone in silhouette, you don't see any features or any color. You simply see a full figure that's blackened out. Here's a famous silhouette. Do you know who that is? It's George Washington, the first president of the United States. You're used to seeing his profile on a coin, and here is his silhouette. You see how it's fully shaded in black. This next silhouette is used in a lot of advertisements. This is a man of action. It's called the jumping man. And you see this basketball player in full silhouette. So we're going to do that here tonight. This is a dark night. We wouldn't see any features. We're going to create Paul in silhouette. So now that I have my stick figure, I'm just going to use my black, I don't have to worry about any details, to create Paul looking up towards something. He's pointing. So I want to have a pointed finger. Then I'll create a fist, so like this. You can see how dirty my hands are from my pastels. His arm. And we only have to worry about the upper part of his body. And I'm going to fill it in black. Now my friends, if this worries you or you're afraid you're not going to get it right, here's a tip you can do. Simply take your pencil and draw the silhouette area first, then fill it in with the black pastel. You can always erase the pencil lines if you don't get them right. So here I'm going to fill in Paul. He's leaning on the rail. I see the upper part of his body. It's all in black. I'm going to assume he's got some longer type hair and a beard. So there's my figure of Paul. Now I can see I need to do some cleanup. I just got done using black. So when you use dark pastels, my friends, and I know I'm going to be using a very light pastel next, I want to make sure I'm clean. This is a scene at night. It was really stormy. But I bet you there were amazing constellations of stars in the skies behind all those clouds. God made a great universe. Paul knew that too. Paul had traveled enough on all of these missionary journeys. He'd taken enough travels over land and by sea that he knew of all the constellations in the heavens that God had created. So now we're going to take our fluorescent orange yellow really, it's the lightest one in your set. And in this far left corner, use the edge to make a shallow letter C. That's going to be a crescent moon. And then we're going to fill it out like this so that it's a crescent moon. And to the right of that, with the very edge of your pastel, we're going to make some stars, just small little dots. Now right now we're going to make 6 or 7 that are in a long straight line, like this. And then we're going to make more stars, making a horizontal line, making a cross. But with a regular pastel, so just grab another pastel, similar color but not fluorescent, we're going to make a lot of stars all around that, so it kind of gets hidden. You can see a lot of stars in the heavens on a really dark night. It would be filled. So I'm going to fill up by this moon. I'm going to start to move across a lot of stars. See how they just pop on this black paper? And some are closer than others. That's how constellations work. And now I can just go fast. I'm going to go over here, fill this up. You're not going to get any too low. They don't come too low to the horizon. So stay in the upper part of your drawing. Now take a darker gray, use the side of your pastel, and we are going to have to put some clouds. It was a stormy night. We're going to put some clouds to the right, kind of masking some of those. Don't go near where you did your special pastel. Stay to the right. And those stormy clouds covering the sky, like that. Now on the very front of our friend Paul, take your fluorescent again, and just ever so lightly at the very front of Paul's face, front of his finger, a little bit on the top of his arm, just a little tiny bit. Now you can always add some rigging, some lines that came down. You can put some other figures against the mast clinging because they're so scared. I'm going to add in some more splashy white caps up against the boat. Some water coming up there. But this is the basic elements of our story of Paul and the shipwreck. Now here's the fun part, my friends. The fun part is as Paul is on the prow of the ship and the rest of the crew and passengers are terrified. They're saying, "Who will save us?" And Paul, a man of great faith, had the answer. And that's what we're going to see in our blacklight reveal. This is what will save us, the cross of Jesus. And Paul knew that. He knew that Jesus is the one who saves. And he was not afraid to point that out to all of those on the ship. James 1:6, but he must ask in faith without any doubting. For the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. Paul knew something about what it felt like to be blown and tossed by the wind after that storm. But he stood strong because he has such faith. And that's a great reminder for us. I hope you enjoyed our lesson on Paul and the shipwreck. We'll see you again soon, friends.